Hello guys, I'm Rakesh from Analytics Plus and welcome to the final part of this webinar series on how to implement continuous service improvement. In part one, we discussed how to continuously improve on request resolution times. In part two, we talked about how to continuously improve on SLA compliance. If you haven't been able to attend them, head on over to youtube.com and look for the ManageEngine channel and you'll find a recording of those two webinars. In today's session, we're going to discuss the steps to continuously improve service delivery. Please use the chat icon on the bottom right corner of your webinar screen to post your questions. I will answer them in an email post completion of this webinar. As pointed out in previous webinars, these are the different steps to implement continuous service improvement. Identify the metric that you wish to continuously improve, check the current status of this metric, identify the factors that impact the metric or impact service delivery time in our case, come up with a way to monitor these factors, and finally use analytics to continuously monitor improvements. Since we've already identified the metric to be service delivery time, it completes our step one. So step two is to status check your current service delivery times. Now, the best way to take stock of your service delivery time is running a report that shows you a comparison of the promised delivery time and the actual delivery time for different services. To run this report, we are going to be using Analytics Plus. As you all probably already know, ManageEngine Analytics Plus is a business intelligence and analytics solution from ManageEngine. You can integrate Analytics Plus with Service Desk Plus or any other help desk application for that matter in a few minutes. Setting up the integration with Service Desk Plus is simple as Analytics Plus offers out-of-the-box integration with ManageEngine Service Desk Plus. If you're interested in setting up this integration, log on to your Service Desk Plus application, click on the admin panel and look for advanced analytics, and please follow the on-screen instructions to set up the integration. If you're using help desk other than ManageEngine Service Desk Plus, the integration would take a few additional steps. You can either integrate Analytics Plus with your help desk application by connecting to your help desk's database and running queries, or you can use your help desk application's web APIs to fetch information into Analytics Plus. All right, so coming back to our steps to implement continuous service improvement, like I said, the first step is to identify the metric that you want to improve on. The second step is to status check your current delivery time. A simple report like this that shows you the comparison of the agreed or the promised delivery time and the actual service delivery time is a good point to start. In my case, you can tell from just looking at this report that I'm not doing all that great when it comes to delivering service within the agreed time frame. The actual delivery time represented by the green bar is consistently more than the promised delivery time represented by the red bar. So there's a lot of work for me to get this sorted out. So step three is to identify the different factors that impact service delivery time. Now, I've listed the top three common factors that influence the delivery time: insufficient information in your service request, approval times, and shortage of inventory. Now, a service request form should be designed in a way that it collects all the necessary information from the user when it is filled out. When the service request form doesn't ask all the necessary questions, your technicians are going to be spending a lot of time going back and forth trying to find out the needs of the user accurately. And this obviously impacts the delivery time because the technicians spend so much time trying to figure out what the user needs before they can start working towards fulfilling the request. And number two is approval times. Now, approval times are not something that are usually in control of the help desk team, nor is it their fault if approvals take a long time approving requests. However, it's a good practice to keep tabs on approval times. The longer the approval time, the longer it takes to fulfill the service request. And finally, shortage of inventory. There are two different types of assets that are offered to employees. Assets that are usually pre-purchased and are available in stock, and assets that are purchased only when someone requests for it. A good example of assets that are usually pre-purchased are workstations. Now, it makes a lot of sense to have a set of workstations in stock to cater to new employees or as replacements to existing employees. When you don't plan ahead and don't have enough workstations in stock, it adversely affects the business due to delays. Without a workstation, new employees will take longer to get inducted, and existing employees will have a loss in productivity. And I also mentioned assets that are only purchased when someone requests for it. A good example of that is licenses to an accounting software like QuickBooks. Not everyone in your organization is going to need it. So it makes sense that it's only purchased when someone requests for it. So those are the three factors that impact service delivery. Step four is to come up with a way to monitor these factors. Now, the first factor that we talked about was insufficient information. A service request should flow as smooth as silk. Now, what I mean by that is, as a user, let's say I fill out a service request asking for a new phone. The next interaction that I should have concerning the request is when the help desk technician calls me to hand over the product or the phone that I requested for. So the number of conversations between the user and the technician in this case will be one or less. Such an experience is only possible when the service request form asks me all the right questions about what kind of phone I need, the model, the amount of storage, what corporate plan I should be on, etc., etc. If there isn't sufficient information in the request, help desk technicians will have to reach out to users asking for additional information. So this increases the number of conversations on the service request. A report like this one that shows the number of interactions between users and technicians will point out service categories where the average number of interactions is high. In such cases, it's best to find out what these conversations are about. And my guess is these conversations are clarifications on what the user requested for specifically. Now, in my case, the employee onboarding service request has the highest number of conversations. It's at about 8. Employee onboarding requests usually involve tasks that need to be fulfilled by multiple departments, such as HR, IT, and admin, and hence requires a lot of coordination. The fact that there is an average of 8 conversations in this category is an indicator that there is a lot of chatter amongst the teams. A quick inspection of the type of conversations will help me identify the areas of discussion and see if that information can be added to the employee onboarding service request template so it's readily available for my technicians. So the plan of action here would be to review the service request form and ensure that there are sufficient fields or questions that probe users to tell exactly what they need. Now, the second factor that we discussed is approval times. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the time it takes for managers to approve requests is not something that help desk technicians need to bother. But it is a good practice to keep track of the average amount of time it takes for managers to approve requests. This is because it could lead to some improvements in your service request form. For example, let's say you have a service request form to request for a new phone, but the form doesn't have a reason field. When a manager gets a notification for an approval, he isn't really sure why an employee of his is requesting for a new phone, and in turn waits to get clarification from the employee as to why a new phone was requested. So in this case, adding a reason field will solve the problem and will also bring down the approval times. So there are a few variations in the type of reports that you can use to monitor approval times. You can either look at a trend report that shows you the average approval times during the course of the past 2 months, or look at the approval times by service category like the one displayed on my screen. This depends on where you suspect the problem lies in your particular situation. And the third factor that we discussed was shortage of inventory. Now, the best way to avoid shortage of inventory is, of course, to keep a running stock of assets that are a basic necessity to keep the business running without any interruptions. A good example that I pointed out earlier is workstations for new and existing employees. A few other examples are desk phones and printer cartridges. An inventory report showing you the stock availability of these assets is a good starting point. It gives you an idea of the components or assets that you're running low on and helps you pre-order them. When you have the essentials in stock, it cuts down the time it takes to assign it to employees on request. You can go one step ahead and create a report that not only tells you the amount in stock, but it also tells you the number of units consumed on a monthly basis. This will let you forecast the time when these components are likely to run out. In my examples, I have 4 Photoshop licenses in stock, and my monthly consumption of those licenses is also 4. So this means I'm covered for this month. However, my monthly consumption of workstations is about 15 units, but I only have 5 of them in stock. So it's imperative that I stock up on workstations before I run out of all of them. All right, so we looked at the different factors, and these are the different actions that you can take in order to combat those factors. So when it comes to insufficient information, you can examine the average number of conversations in each request. When it comes to approval times, look at the approval times across different service categories for clues on things that you can improve on. And when it comes to shortage of inventory, closely monitor the inventory in stock. Now, the most important part is step 5, and it is to continuously monitor your changes to see if it is making a positive impact on your service delivery. So this is the initial report, a version of the initial report that we started out with that tells you the promised delivery time and the total actual delivery time. Now I'm going to introduce an additional metric that will show me the service delivery time from 3 months ago. So now each service category will have 3 bars, one representing the promised delivery time, one representing the actual delivery time from 3 months ago, and another one representing the actual or the current delivery time. Your function as a help desk manager is to ensure that your current delivery time is lower than the delivery time from the past, and both of these are lower than the promised delivery time. This will signify that your delivery time has improved continuously. So those are the 5 steps to implement continuous service improvement when it comes to service delivery. Since a major portion of CSI involves measuring your status and working towards where you want to be, an analytic solution such as Analytics Plus gives you the flexibility to create custom reports as you wish. So if you wish to download a free 30-day trial of Analytics Plus, you can use the QR code flashing on your screen if you haven't already. And once you download Analytics Plus, you can sign up for a one-on-one session where our experts will help you set up Service Desk Plus reports to suit your specific need. If you're already testing out Analytics Plus, or if you're an existing customer of Analytics Plus, you can sign up for the one-on-one session right away and get help in terms of building custom reports that you wish to see in your application. So that concludes our 3-part series on how to implement continuous service improvement. If you followed all the 3 webinars in this series, you will notice that the system that I followed to implement continuous service improvement is very similar to each other. You can use these steps and apply it to any metric that you wish to improve in your help desk. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar series as much as I did. And if you have missed the first two parts of the series where I discussed the steps to continuously improve resolution times and SLA compliance, head on over to YouTube and search for the ManageEngine Analytics Plus playlist for a recording of those two webinars. So I hope you'll apply these learnings to your help desk processes. I'll meet you guys again very soon with another interesting topic. Until then, it's Rakesh signing off. You guys have a great day.